Hey, good afternoon, everybody. How are you? This is Freddie Ewan, two-time GM of the year, Pantheon Cup champion, host of that fantasy football show with Freddie Ewan, the fantasy football god, a coach podcast that's grown on me a little bit. Um, Next week, we are going to have our first guest in the season. It's going to be really interesting. I don't know this guy's last name, believe it or not, but he does know his fantasy football. His name is Chris. I'm in the John Galt League with him, the No Limit League. I think he is 3-0 right now. He does know his fantasy stuff. The guy is, I've only met him once and it was in a Zoom call, and the guy is wild, man. It's going to be a fun show. This guy talks a lot. He talks more than I do. So it's going to be a interesting show, but the guy does know his fantasy football, and that is what is important. Big game tonight, New York Giants and Dallas Cowboys NFC East matchup. Look for things from big game for Lamb, I'm sure, and I think Neighbors is going to be able to carry it as well. Guys really to keep an eye on is Devin Singletary and Dak Prescott. I think both of those guys are starts. I think Dak is probably going to have a really good game tonight like he did last week for the first time. I'm going to share my rankings with you guys really quickly. This is coming out from Fantasy Guides. Fantasy Guides, www.fantasyguides. You can find it on. They also have an Instagram app. $10 a month, I think I pay for it. I get the trade guide, which is really gives you an idea of how to trade. If you're going to be in a fantasy football league and take it seriously, it's always good to be in a paid site. Fantasy Pros is an app that I use that does a really good job as well. And it's always helpful. It's always helpful. The more you learn about fantasy football, the better chance you have to win, or just watch my show. But to quarterbacks, Kyler Murray looks pretty damn good lately. Now that he's got Marvin Harrison and that tight end to throw to. McBride's look really good. One guy that I want to talk about in particular, Jay Daniels, had his coming out party last week. I think that should continue against Arizona. They have a high, I think it's second highest scoring expected score of the game. I think Hurts is going to continue to struggle as long as Saquon Barkley's there, fantasy wise. I actually know a guy who's, it's a keeper league. He drafted Hurts 4 years ago, got a great deal on him. And this year he drafted Daniels. Now he's trying to trade him, and he can't because, a lot of people in quarterback leagues have 3 or 4 quarterbacks. So he's having a tough time. I've been streaming my quarterback with Love out, but he's afraid to trade with me. So that's how it goes. Two guys that you can stream this week, I think, are Justin Fields and Geno Smith. I think I like Geno a little bit more. I picked up Fields in one league, but I think I like Geno a little bit more just because of the matchup. I think Detroit and Seattle are going to score a bunch of points, and so do the bettors. Let's take a look at running backs really quick. Top running back is going to be Saquon Barkley here on out. I think Barkley is playing phenomenal. He's the fantasy player of the year right now. Jerome Mason owners have to be really happy. If you were smart, unlike me, and had CMC and Mason was your handcuff and you got him, you're not missing CMC too much. Kyron Williams, great week last week. I think Kyron Williams is just going to be fine as long as everything continues with him. He's going to be the focal point of the Rams offense. Devin Singletary, I just talked about before. I think Singletary is really treading up. Brian Robinson is really treaded up. Eckler hasn't done much all year. They've been kind of in timeshare, but this is really Brian Robinson's backfield. Najee Harris, it is looking like his backfield. Warren is banged up. One guy who I am staying away from entirely is Rachaad White. White was terrible last week. He's been terrible all season, pretty much. Shared the carries with Bucky Irving. This is going to be Bucky Irving's backfield. I don't think I can start Bucky Irving this week, but I'm definitely not starting Rachaad White. Eventually, Bucky Irving is going to be the guy in Tampa. If you do have Rachaad White, try to trade him while you still can. And we'll talk more about trades in just a little bit. Wide receivers. Let's take a look at our wide receivers really quickly. Our wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb, of course, the number one wide receiver, had a good week last week. I think he's really going to get going this week. Chase finally had a good week last week. I think he's going to get going. These guys in here, Rice, Harrison, Jefferson, Amon-Ra is due for a big game. I think he's going to have one this week. One guy that I want to talk about is Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson, I am putting on the bench in all my leagues. He's going to be shadowed by the Denver Broncos' Patrick Surtain this week. Patrick Surtain was up against Mike Evans last week, George Pickens the week before, and DK Metcalf the week before that. I think the three of them combined had maybe 4 catches for 67 yards or something like that. Evans had one catch for 9 yards last week. Surtain's going to be shadowing Wilson a lot. Wilson, I'm going to be putting on the bench. without hesitation, and you probably should too. Um, Guys who are trending up, another guy who's trending downwards. These poor Miami Dolphins. They don't have a quarterback. Tua, without Tua, Tyreek Hill, you see he is the 22nd ranked wide receiver right now, and that is probably where he's supposed to be. I think that if Tua was in there, he'd probably be within the top three, but right now he's 22. You have to start Tyreek no matter what because the guy's so fast, he can get a lot of yaks. But I think you are going to be struggling if you are a Tyreek Hill owner until they get that quarterback situation figured out. Same thing with Packers receivers. I'm not going anywhere near. Love is probably going to start this week. If Love does start, I probably won't start Love, but I probably will start Reed. Let's go to our second tier of wide receivers, the next 24 for 48. And, Christian Kirk, I don't know why they have him so high up there, 32. I just trade Kirk for Madison. I'm so down on Christian Kirk. I don't think he's going to do much at all. Brian Thomas is the guy in Jacksonville. He's going to get the he's been decent. He's still a rookie. He's just going to get better and better. He's going to be the alpha dog. Thomas is a big guy. Shakir is becoming the man in Buffalo now that we got that figured out. Keon Coleman still needs a little bit more time. One quarterback that I forgot to talk about is Anthony Richardson. Just going back to quarterbacks really quickly. Anthony Richardson, I am benching without a doubt. A couple horrible games where he's just awful. It's going to be interesting to see how Richardson goes, but at this point, he is not a fantasy football starter. I'm benching him, and even if I have to stream a quarterback, I'm benching Anthony Richardson right now just because he's been god awful. As you can see, Jalen Waddle down here has been going way down. And once again, that's the quarterback play. Guy that you can stream is Wan'Dale Robinson. I think tonight's game is probably going to be high scoring. Giants are probably going to be playing from behind. Robinson has gotten a lot of looks, nowhere near Malik Neighbors, but he has gotten a lot of looks and he's put up some decent games. Xavier Worthy, first game was lights out. He's fell off the map. McConkey is giving you a little bit, but not really anything, smooth. Quentin Johnson looks like he is being the man in the Chargers right now. Justin Herbert's banged up, so that's going to be another issue. And tight ends. God, what is going on with tight ends this year? I saw this guy this morning in one of my leagues. He dropped Sam Laporta. He took Noah Fant, just straight up dropped him. He probably could have traded for him. I don't know why he didn't try to trade for him. I have no idea why he didn't try to trade for him, but straight up dropped him, and I was thinking, how stupid that could that be? But now that I'm looking at the rankings, Laporta is the 19th overall ranked tight end right now. And he's like the fifth option, on Detroit. So I was thinking about, putting up a bunch of bids for Laporta, and now I'm kind of thinking against it. I think that guy might have been right. Brock Bowers, number one tight end. You guys been doing everything he was supposed to be. He was great in Georgia. I think he's going to be a great pro. Travis Kelce, Kelce is having a tough run at it. He's older, et cetera, et cetera. Rice is the man there, but I think Kelce is going to have a couple big games regardless. And, he's no longer the tight end one and 100 points ahead of tight end two. But, Kelce will have some big games. I think Dallas Goedert is going to be the man as long as A.J. Brown and now maybe Devontae Smith are out. Tough matchup against Tampa Bay this week, but I'm still starting Goddard everywhere just because he should get plenty of opportunities. Guys that you can still stream is, Gesicki, Ertz, you could probably still stream Parkinson, Conklin, Henry. That's probably as far as I go with that. As far as that, Mark Andrews, another guy who has been awful. I do not know what's going on in Baltimore, but I can tell you that Mark Andrews was not in a whole lot of even routes running. He was not on the field that much. Likely was on the field more than him last week. I don't think you can start Mark Andrews at this point. Unfortunately, I think you got to put him on the bench and see where it goes from there. That is the update for week 4. We are going to talk about what I made you all stay a little bit because we're going to talk about my favorite thing, and this is how we're going to advertise this, is how to make trades in fantasy football and not to trade like a narcissist. Easy enough. I'm going to show you some really bad trades. I had drafted CMC. I don't know why I drafted him in one thing, but I wanted to get rid of him. I said CMC's available, and I got a couple people who asked trades, but I got this one guy who immediately sent this trade to me. This is before CMC's injury. He wanted Christian McCaffrey for Christian Kirk and Austin Eckler. And he was perfectly serious that that was a good trade. That's a narcissist trade. People who talk about themselves. Here's a joke trade. I sent this trade to a buddy of mine after he's afraid to trade with me. I sent this over to him, but this would be another narcissist trade. Jalen Hurts for Geno Smith. Trade that I got this morning. I don't know this guy. He just sent me this trade over thinking that I would even think about this. I have Rashee Rice. He wanted to trade me Kelsey for Rashee Rice. Last year I would probably do that. But Rashee Rice is the alpha male. I think he's the number 2 wide receiver right now. Travis Kelsey is the number 24 tight end. I mean, I don't understand what goes through people's mind. It's like they look at the player that they want and say, okay, what crap can I trade them? So that's why we're going to talk about fantasy football trades right now really quickly. Let me go ahead and log out of this screen so you can get my beautiful face and see everything. Narcissist trades are pretty much when guys pick a player. Oh, I like that guy, and I'm going to trade him my bench or this guy, thinking he's going to bite at it. Fantasy football leagues, there's many different kinds of fantasy football leagues. I'm in 5 leagues, for instance. The first league, which I love, is me and all my buddies. It's, there's 12 of us and we all know each other. We all know each other pretty well. There's some guys that, we don't know each other as well, but they're still in the group. We've been together for 5 years, 4 years, and we chat up, more trades go on in that league than anything else. I have another league where I'm the commissioner, whereas they're all basically friends or associates of mine. Some are friends, et cetera, et cetera. There's not a whole lot of trading in that. 2 other leagues is a friend of mine up in Jersey who I know maybe 1 or 2 people, don't know anyone else, not a whole lot of trades in that. And this new league, the John Galt League, hasn't been any trades yet. My man put this together. He's done a great job putting this together. Has not been a lot of trades in that as yet. I don't think there's been any trades. And those are, the same instance where I got 1 or 2 guys, which I referred to him, but he's got guys that he found and et cetera, et cetera. And that's usually how it works. So a good commissioner is always going to give you a email list of who. He'd probably give you a text chain and phone number. It's always good to get everyone's name in that text chain to know who you're talking to. And instead of just sending a trade, it's usually if you see a player that you like or you want, it's better to text them and better to talk to them and better to negotiate them. 9 out of 10 trades that you send over are going to get rejected. They're just going to get rejected. That's how it is. Even if it's a good trade for him, it's probably going to get rejected if you guys did not discuss it first. It's probably more than 9 out of 10 trades. Let me see if I can share my screen. Let me see if I can get this up really quick. Things that you want to look for when you are trying to make a trade. The NFL fantasy football app is great. Their desktop is a little, I'm not too big on it, but right here you can see, you probably can't see this, but these are everyone's depth charts. And so, if I want to trade with somebody, you need to look for somebody who has a need, who basically has a need. Pacheco. Pacheco might be out for the year. CMC might be out for the year. Those are Puka, Cup. Those are guys that you need to track down, and you need to trade them what their need is. And hopefully, if you have a need, they will be able to do that as well. If you don't have a need and want to upgrade your roster, they are usually more in a sign of more desperation than you are. You lose Pacheco for the year. You don't get Carson Steele on the waiver wire. We still don't know what's going on in the Kansas City backfield. Now that they got the Kareem Hunt, the guy who, I forget what he did. He did something screwed up, but those are guys that you need to find that have a need. There is, it's once again on Fantasy Guides, the app or the Instagram account. They have the trade guide, which gives you numbers of everybody, so you can get an idea of how someone's worth, especially when you're trading quarterbacks, halfback, wide receivers. People think that quarterbacks are solely highly rated in one quarterback leagues, and they're really not. The best quarterback is usually about a mid-tier wide receiver. That's usually what the best quarterback is in one quarterback leagues. It's a lot different in super flex leagues, but some people just put a high emphasis on quarterbacks. But, looking through this, I'm going to find a guy like this guy right here in Night Squad. He's got 3 running backs. He's got a bunch of wide receivers. He's got 3 tight ends, 2 quarterbacks. So this guy has a need for running backs. I would look on my roster and see if there's a running back that I can trade him for a wide receiver or something like that. There's other guys that will have, a bad quarterback or a quarterback who just got hurt, guy who had Tua. Let's say I'm one of those guys that has two or three quarterbacks. I would be approaching them with that quarterback. It is very, very easy. You are always going to find your situation where, you're going to be training with guys that you know better. My man Jay Wins is in the league with me. We are really good buds, and we've made some trades before, et cetera, et cetera. You're always going to find guys who you get along with that are always going to trade a lot better. Don't just send trades along. They're going to get rejected. Talk to the person, see if you can work something out. Always look for a need. It's very, very simple. Very simple. Sending out trades thinking that, last week, and we'll talk about this with my boy Chris, I put something out that I, wanted to trade one of my running backs and one of my wide receivers. And he just, I think he sent me Drake London from Malik Neighbors or something. And it's just because I want to trade someone doesn't mean that I want shit in return. And, I don't think I trade Malik Neighbors at all right now, but, very easy to trade. You got to communicate. Fantasy football is a sales skill. It's a sales skill and it's negotiation. And in order for you to improve your team, not only are you going to have to use the waiver wire, but you're going to have to try to make trades even in leagues where there are not a lot of trades. Take the initiative. You'll win your fantasy football league, or at least stand a much better chance. Anyway, everyone enjoy the game tonight. And we'll be back here in a couple days for our Sunday wrap-up. I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks.